Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the June 1st podcast. To start off this episode, I'd like to say thank you for the positive feedback that I've gotten thus far and the constructive criticisms. I'm looking forward to improving as we go along here. If you wouldn't mind leaving a rating on the platform that you're on or sharing the podcast around, it would be greatly appreciated. With that, let's get on to today's guest. Thomas Knepshield is a storm chaser from Kentucky, goes to school in North Carolina, and has spent the last summer living out of the back of his Subaru Forester, chasing both mesoscale severe weather, monsoon season, anything you name it. Thomas Knepshield has seen it. Thomas, welcome aboard.
Yeah, thank you for having me. This year was quite a year going off and exploring the Midwest Tornado Alley and Arizona's monsoon. It was a great year.
Yeah, man. We met out in Lubbock this past year and converging at none other than the legendary Storm Chaser hangout of Applebee's. And I was immediately impressed by the fact that you were living out of the back of your Subaru for the majority of the summer at that point. Granted, it was still the beginning stages of the summer, but I was still very much envious almost of the fact of you being able to kind of live out of the back of your car.
Yeah, so I wanted to take like a whole summer long trip, and to stay in a hotel every night was a little bit out of my price range. So I just decided to get an air mattress and a sleeping bag, and I just stayed in the back of my car and like gas station parking lots, hotel parking lots, and I knew I could just sleep in the back, wake up, go for my run, and like take off chasing. It was a lot more comfortable than I thought. It's like I took a couple days with my dad building a platform in the back out of plywood and uh, made it like level, and then I could pull it out and make it a table. But I never used the table. don't tell them that.
Okay.
But I was I was able to like pull it out, put it back in, and like store stuff underneath it. So everything I needed was in my car, and like if along the way I didn't need it, I just threw it out. So it I had enough space for me. I'm 6'2", so I fit perfectly in the back of it, and like woke up in a new city every day, new gas station, and ran and chased from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Now, was this a tough adjustment? Like once you hit the road, was it to take a couple of nights to kind of get used to the fact that you were sleeping in your car, or was it a lot more of an easier adjustment than some might anticipate?
So at first it was kind of difficult because I've never done something like this before. I've always dreamed of doing something like it, but never put it into practice. But this, it took me about like I stayed in a hotel maybe 2 or 3 nights. One of them being in Denver when we drove from Texas all the way to Denver that one night, and I needed a bed to sleep in after driving like 600 or 700 miles. But it's like stuff like that. I definitely needed a hotel, but I think 10 of the 14 days I was chasing in the Midwest was in the back of my car, and the remainder of the days until I got to Arizona was in the back of my car. And uh, I would definitely go and do that next year. It was the time of my life, greatest thing you can do, and just makes it better,
Well,
I think.
what would you say if you had to give advice to someone that wanted to do a chase trip out of the back of their car, or even just like a cross country road trip, hitting national parks and stuff like that? Doesn't necessarily have to be storm chasing, but what would you say if you had like a handful of tips or something that would make that experience a lot better that you learned along the way?
Um, so the travel company Nemo makes great stuff. So their sleeping pad is like super thick and really lightweight, and they make different sizes. So like I use that one to sleep in the back, and it was super comfy. It's like I got a great sleep every night. 2 pillows, some extra clothes, and pack a little bit more than usual because laundry machines are hard to come across.
Gotcha.
It's like restrooms and showers are easy to find, but yeah, you cannot find laundry machines. But yeah, and also like if showers are expensive along the way, so most of the time you just gotta say, oh, I gotta take some time in between showers and enjoy the feeling of being disgusting. But it after about a week, you kind of get used to it. But with like in the back of the car, try and go somewhere like in a parking lot that's not super lit up, because try and find like the dark space because there's always one in between lights. So I always tried to find that. And then also I would park in the way that my head would be like above my legs.
Okay.
So that's the only like comfortable way to like really sleep. So you kind of have to think that part through. But gas stations, I stayed at Love's a whole bunch. They let you stay overnight for free.
Yeah, I've heard
So
that.
it's not bad. It's like I only had one issue of a couple fighting in the parking lot, but that was one of like 40 days. So it wasn't too bad. But let's see. Gear, like if you want to get a shower, Nemo makes a great shower. You pump it up and it's a pressurized one, but it's not warm unless you put warm water in it. Yeah, sleeping bag, like I was sleeping in like between like 80 degrees at night and 30 degrees at night, and a 55-degree bag. It was $80. It was perfect. Like if it was too cold, I would put like a long sleeve on. If it wasn't, I would just keep the short sleeve on.
Gotcha.
And that worked perfectly because your car will be warmer than the outside, like when you wake up, because when you breathe, like it keeps the warmth inside the car rather than in a tent, it just escapes.
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever tried these, but I got these mosquito mesh that go over the outside of the window, so you can lower the window and it keeps everything outside. I've used that before when I have slept in my car for not necessarily storm chasing, but other occasions.
I'll have to look into that
Yeah,
because
I'll send you a link
most,
after the show.
most of the time I would just leave my windows rolled up because I was kind of scared that like, oh, I could suffocate, but
Yeah,
there's so much like air movement inside a car, even when the windows are rolled up, that it's fine as long as you keep the car off.
yeah.
You're fine.
I mean, for me personally, I just know I would get really hot, so I'd want some sort of way just to keep ventilation kind of going through there. Uh, Now, I know we've talked about this before, but your personal preference in terms of being more of the photographer side of storm chasing is monsoon season for you versus the plain season. Maybe that was just because of the way 2021 played out, but why, from a photographer's perspective, would you say that monsoon season is better than a mesoscale season? Maybe just because of the fact that I'm biased. I love the planes chasing side of things, and I think maybe it's just because I'm not seeing it through a photographer's eye.
Yeah, so when I was out planes chasing, I kind of did a mix of like get close and shoot wide and then like stay back and kind of watch everything. And a lot of times the storms in the planes, they can be photogenic and like very cool, but it's like those are few and far between. Like the only ones that I remember that were like super photogenic was May 17th in Lubbock. That storm that went up through there was beautiful supercell on that moderate day. And then there was a tornado that dropped in Akron. I can't remember the Akron, Colorado. I can't remember the
That
day,
was
but
May 22nd.
May 22nd. And those were the like two like big photogenic days. Most of the photos that I have were from then, and like those are fun storms to be on. And like I kind of was able to keep my distance from them. But monsoon, it's just those storms are super high based, so like you can see them from very far away, and they kind of just like rise very rapidly, and they'll like just dump water like quick. You can watch the water just slowly fall to the ground and then spread out. And the lightning from monsoon storms is just unreal. It's unlike, because with lower base storms like the tornadic storms and all that, those ones, the bolts are kind of small. But then when you have these huge bases and you can get like right up on them and they'll just like shoot lightning down, like big like string bolts, it's just unreal. And just sitting there like with a camera and like a lightning trigger, and then you see a bolt, you check your camera screen, it's like, oh, there's a lightning bolt right there. It's a whole lot better feeling than like just taking a bunch of pictures of a tornado. Although I do like tornadoes and like photographing them, like I'll take a picture and jump around, but lightning is just more of an adrenaline rush. It's very unpredictable. It could just go and it could just be all awful bolts and nothing cool, or you could just get like this massive one that would like completely obliterate a cactus or something.
Yeah. Would you say that before going into your first real monsoon season that you had come out becoming like a huge monsoon fan?
Yes, I'm a huge monsoon fan now.
Yeah.
I didn't expect me to come out and say, ooh, monsoon. Like, I kind of like monsoon better than plains, but uh, I know plains, I will always like put that first other than monsoon season. But man, just getting out into Arizona and like, it's the unpredictability. It's so much harder to find like storms because you can catch them days in advance in the plains, but you kind of have to wake up in the morning and make your forecast. And a lot of what I did then was I would check dew points and then just go to places that like I found that had storms like a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
So like there's a place in Valley, there's a place on the east side of Flagstaff I would go to, and then Grand Canyon. Those were kind of it.
Yeah, and also too that the fact of monsoon, where it generally happens, Arizona, uh, western New Mexico, if I'm not mistaken, all in there. That's all very, very photogenic landscapes. And comparative to the plains, where it can get kind of dull with just, endless fields of X, Y, and Z crop. So it's
Yeah.
definitely a lot more picturesque. I mean, some of the photos that I've seen from you really blew me away. One of the days I want to ask you about is the Grand Canyon Day. For those that don't know, you caught a haboob, which is basically a dust storm in layman's terms, that blew across the Grand Canyon. What was that experience like?
So it's like that day I kind of left late. We didn't know where we were gonna go. I was with my dad, and that's when I say we, it's me and him. And we didn't know like exactly where to go, but we figured out like, oh, just go to the Grand Canyon, follow what like a bunch of other chasers were doing. And it's like I was gonna go to the same side as I went the day before, where I captured all my like lightning shots. And I decided to go to a different spot because the storms are going to blow from the east to west over that part of the canyon. So I was like, well, I can capture some lightning with that. And I went up there, and like I saw it started to line up over the Painted Desert. And I was like, wow, this is going to throw out a boundary and push up all the dust from the desert and overtake the canyon. So I was kind of like, I'd like to get more lightning, but it'd be super cool to see a pile of dust just blow over the canyon. Because a couple days before I was in Phoenix, and we intercepted me and Michael Densky intercepted two dust storms. They weren't very big, and it was like, these are small. I was like, oh, these are so cool though. But yeah, we up there, it did exactly what I thought. It threw a boundary, picked up a lot of dust, and it was about 50, 60 mile an hour winds coming out of that, and dust got in my eyes. My dad was sitting like holding my tripod down with his phone on it, and trying to like battle the winds and prevent it from falling. And I was just running around everywhere, like screaming, shouting. It's like there was just dust. It just kept moving, 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 and finally you couldn't see the bottom of the canyon. The visibility was so low that like the Colorado River just completely disappeared. And I was there with Aaron Rigsby, Justin Sneed, and like a couple other chasers. And Jim Tang was there also. And we were all just like freaking out together. Like once the winds kind of died down, I ran over to him and we're all like jumping, celebrating that this we just saw like something like super rare. And it's like we all tagged Michael Binsky in a tweet and said, "You missed another Haboob." And he's like, "Geez, I never thought I would miss a Haboob at the Grand Canyon of all places."
That's awesome. Now I gotta ask, since you brought it up, how was chasing with Michael Binsky? I mean, I like watching his chase vlogs that he does, and he seems like a cool guy to get to hang out on the road with.
Oh yeah, he's a super cool dude. He messaged me and he's like, "Hey, I've got like an open spot. You want to like join in?" I was like, "Sure, why not?" So the day my friends left, I went down there and around like early morning, got my run in super early. Took the 2.5 hour drive down to where he lives, and we kind of just took off for near Tucson and waited for like some storms to pass by there. Didn't really see much, but it's like we kind of circled around, went back towards Phoenix, and then back west, and then east. We were everywhere in southern Arizona, and there was like the one storm that I remember. It was like a line of like dumps. It would just dump over here, and then once that one was done, it would dump again next to it, and then next to it, and it was just a line of it. And each time one of them would stop, there'd be a lightning bolt. But we didn't catch any of them, which we were all pretty disappointed. But we were able to get some cool time lapses out of that, and one of them will be in my time lapse film coming up. But and then once it kind of got towards night, we were driving back, and one of his buddies was like, "Oh, there's a dust storm heading towards downtown Phoenix," and like we went in front of it as it was rushing from the south, and we got that, and visibility went to like very, very low. You couldn't see much, and we chased that all the way back to Phoenix. It got caught in another storm, which kind of fizzled it out, so we didn't get to see one overtake the city. But there was a nice lightning storm that surrounded the city and never really popped up over the city. It was kind of disappointing there, but all the lightning photos I got from that trip were blurry. So I didn't realize my camera could go over infinity. So that's what got me. So I got 2 shots, but one of them was salvageable, but the other one just wasn't.
That stinks. But I mean, it's still a pretty cool experience to be able to kind of have, and I imagine that will open up doors in the future to do it again. Because I mean, you're only just getting started, so.
Oh yeah, on Twitter when I put like my lightning shots from the Grand Canyon, which was 2 days after that. It's like there were people that were like, "I've spent years trying to get photos like this, and you got it on your first try," like all that. And I was like, I knew when I got those, it was just something like super special.
Yeah.
And if this is like my first year going out there, it's like who knows what I could do in the future with. And we just need to get some good monsoon out there, because last year there was no monsoon. I was out there for a month to chase the monsoon, and I got one storm. And I was with my sister, and she got kind of scared. And also, I got scared of the lightning over the canyon because it rushed from the south to the north rather than north to south. So I didn't really get like a good chase out of it, but this year was just phenomenal. It's like every day I was out. Every day I did the 40-mile drive to Valley, Arizona, and just set up a chair, set up my camera, and just waited for storms. It was time of my life, I swear.
Now, do you have a process in terms of kind of setting up your shots? Do you try to scout stuff out ahead of time, or do you kind of just go with the flow and just go, okay, this kind of area is going to be the best place to be?
So with Arizona, especially in like northern Arizona, there's fire roads everywhere. So, and it's once you get more in towards like the northern desert part, there's not much vegetation. So it's kind of easy to like find a spot. There was one spot that I would always pull off on and set up because it was like flat, and like a storm would always pop off the mountains and like just dump rain and lightning right there. So it was there, and then maybe 20 miles north was I think it's the Tucson of like close to the Grand Canyon. There was always like the storms from there would move up to that spot, and I would just go, and there was a nice drop off that you could see like the town, and lightning would just hit down in that area too. So I kind of just went to the same spots and saw like almost the same thing each time, and just never got old. There were some days I just didn't even set my camera up. I just sat out there and watched it, and it was just there was nobody there. No one would drive by, and I would just sit there for hours and hours on end.
That's awesome.
So that's probably why I kind of like the monsoon chases, because I'm not driving hundreds and hundreds of miles trying to keep up with a storm. It's like they just pop up right in front of me.
Yeah, I can definitely see how that's a lot more appealing at times, especially after, I imagine, once you've gotten through plane season, it's, you're doing these days of driving almost 1,000 miles in the course of a day and having to, you know, wake up the next day and do the same thing again. It gets pretty old pretty quick where you're just sitting in a driver's seat for the majority of the time, because that's what a lot of severe weather chasing is most of the time, is just the commute from A to B just to even get to point of initiation. Then you got to move with the storms the whole time. And I can see how by the transition into monsoon season, that can be a lot more appealing. And also just the fact that these storms being big pulse storms, you kind of just have to, you can just commit to one spot and just kind of be static. So never mind just commuting to, the different target areas in the plains, but everything's kind of centralized in Arizona and that immediate area. So you're not driving the thousands of miles, like I said. Shifting gears a little bit, turning photography into a profitable venture, the NFT space, it's the hot new thing. I know you're very heavily involved with it. What, for those that don't know, is there a way you could probably break down at least NFTs from a photography perspective? I'm sure most people listening to this have an idea of what they are. They're a digital art form, but what does that mean from someone like yourself or other nature photographers out there that are using the NFT platform?
So NFTs are fairly like new to me as well. I'm learning as I go, but from my understanding is an NFT is a digital file stored on the blockchain on a server, and when you go to like purchase one, it's almost like a stock and another photographer, but the stock you can sell it to somebody else at like a higher value. So like let's say I sell all my collection now, and then I become the world's most famous storm photographer. Those those original photos will be worth a lot more uh, then than they were before.
Gotcha.
So it's like it's an investment. And also there's people that go and buy them to support like their favorite photographers. They love what they do and they want them to keep going at it and support them. So it's fairly new in the grand scheme of things, but uh, I've I've had some pretty good success with it. I've sold a couple. I have two collectors, and I'll like send them like say, hey, this is like what I'm doing. This is what I'll do, and they've supported me. Like I bought a new camera based on some sales from them, so I was pretty happy with that, and just more of a reason to get out and chase.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, I can imagine that being a huge motivation for the next season. And, it's a huge confidence boost in terms of being able to take your passion and twist it into a career, which I know you're interested in. I imagine there are a lot of other storm photographers out there that, they do this, they spend their vacation days doing this because they love to do it, but to have a potential avenue to making it a career seems like a very worthwhile venture to get into. Uh, the other thing is too, from my understanding, me outside looking in, is that it's also a very supportive community, and they all kind of rally off each other. And I feel as though that's something that sometimes is lacked within the storm chasing community, maybe just from a digital presence, but it seems as though sometimes people can get pretty bitter when you bust on a forecast and someone else gains success from it. Whereas the other way around, it's in the NFT world, it seems pretty nice that everyone's kind of rallying off of each other to kind of promote everyone and not necessarily shut doors for people, really.
Yeah, a lot of the NFT space is based on community, and everyone, if you go and talk to somebody in it, they're like, oh yeah, like talk with like this person who does this person who does this. It's like I talk with all the time with someone from Norway who shoots the aurora, and then I talk with someone from the Pacific Northwest who shoots like the Milky Way and like just all that area up there, and they all like are so interested in storm chasing, so I can immediately like make bonds with them, and like we all like work with each other and not against each other, as you said, to like try and promote us. It's there's a thing called WAGME, and it's we're all gonna make it. So everyone's like starting off now, but in the future, everyone is going to more or less make it in the NFT world because it's just a new frontier. It's only the beginning.
Right.
So who knows what it'll be in 5 years? I could be a millionaire based off of taking pictures. Who knows?
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I mean, that's the important thing, I guess, to realize too, from my perspective, is because I see solely like storm chaser photographers, since I'm not necessarily in that space. But it's awesome that you're able to kind of see, nature photographers from all walks of life, people that are shooting wildlife, people that are shooting landscape photography, others that are doing astrophotography. So I think it's really cool that it's more than just, I see a lot of like animations and stuff like that. Like that seems like a common thing in the NFT space, but it seems cool that photography has now been able to kind of step into that role, because photography is a very, not that it's a new art form in the sense that if you look like in the grand scheme of things for art, but it seems like a natural fit in terms of digital art, since all photography is pretty much digital nowadays. So it seems like a natural fit for nature photographers to kind of, make their home in that NFT space.
Yeah, and everywhere you look, everything was made by an artist, and never in like the history of human beings has there been such a great opportunity for artists to grow and actually make money. Because you always see like our artists, and you're like, oh, they're going to school for art, like they're not going to make anything. But NFTs are a way now that those people have an avenue to make enough money to support themselves and keep going, and while also like paying off like any debt they have, like supporting family, supporting others. And it's just a great thing. I can understand why, like in the Twitterverse, that other like chasers are kind of, I wouldn't say jealous, but kind of mad that there's all this like hype of something different. But it's like NFT space is the only way that I can make money currently, and it's supported me in so many different ways that it's like of course I'm going to keep going with it.
Right.
And like the connections I made with photographers everywhere, it's like I've already offered to take some people to go chasing. It's like if I can bring along like another photographer and like show them the ropes, like it would be fun, because like I spent my whole summer alone, and uh, just bringing along like another photographer, have them show me like what they do,
Yeah.
while also like teaching them how to like shoot storms and like maneuver around them. It's just sounds like a great, just I can't really think of anything negative off of NFTs except for taxes, but
Yeah.
that's something for another day.
Yeah. I know there what's there's issues in terms of their carbon footprint, and just because of the fact that the way cryptocurrencies work is through these hefty server rooms that consume a lot of energy. I'm not sure if I have that exactly right, but uh, it seems as though that they're also trying to shift from the articles that I'm reading, that there's new alternatives to making it a more eco-friendly process, which is always good to see, especially from a nature photography standpoint. And I think what you were talking about in terms of people that are outside of the community looking in, the Storm Chaser community in particular, looking at the NFT community, I think there's a lot of maybe not I can't even say the word animosity. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
I think there's that sense of animosity because every day there's like a lot of like this promotional stuff, and from the outside looking in, it almost seems, I don't know if fake's the right word, but there's just like it's like almost like an overwhelming amount of positivity that if you're not in the community, it doesn't make sense from the outside looking in. And I think get you having that inside perspective and being involved in the community, you understand like what the process is, and that the fact that it really is a big community building platform at the end of the day, and it's helping people across the world. Like you said, you got your astrophotographer friends in the Pacific Northwest, another one that's shooting the auroras in the Nordic countries. It's like you know you're bringing people from all over the world and utilizing social media and to kind of bring people together and elevate them to the next level and make their passion into something profitable and career based.
Yeah. So on the first part, when you said like the carbon footprint, Polygon, there's other blockchains like Polygon doesn't really use as much power, and then Ethereum 2.0 is about to come out, and it's going to significantly decrease the amount of power consumption. It's just the remaking of it, and it should help with like transaction fees and just like the power consumption in general. And so on the outside, yeah, it does look like everyone's trying to be fake, but on like the inside of it, everyone's just there to like uplift you, make you like feel good. So yeah, everyone in the, like the NFT space, they all, you join like one of those Twitter spaces that you see all the time, and everyone says GM or good morning, and everyone's just there to like promote your work, uplift you. So like I retweet people's stuff, they retweet mine, and like I'll go and comment and say like, oh, this is cool, because like some of the greatest photographers in the world are posting their stuff and like giving me feedback as well. So it's like there's like no reason why I shouldn't be like on there trying to grow as a photographer while also showing like what I do and seeing like what others do. Like I've met a couple other chasers, like Justin Sneed. I met him at the Grand Canyon for the Haboob, and little did I know he was like the first NFT storm photographer to like sell work. So I learned. So I've been in contact with him trying to figure out like, oh, what does he do? Like, how does he like make like these connections? How does he like promote his work? And he's like, yeah, you just have to go and support other people's work, like retweet their work and talk to them in spaces. And it's not like this plus this plus this equals lots of money. It's like this plus this equals like positive feedback, like messaging and talking with the greatest photographers in the world and maybe making some money. And I've had success with making just like enough to get a second camera. And but the relationships I made with like photographers that shoot everything is just priceless with it.
Yeah.
So the NFT space is definitely geared more towards photographers, and it's a shift in everything because video is a huge thing in the storm world.
Yep.
And with a cell phone, like companies are going and getting their free footage and putting it online. So it's kind of like, I wouldn't say storm chasing with like video and trying to sell video is a dying thing, but it's not there for everybody.
Yeah.
Whereas the NFT space, you pay one gas fee on OpenSea and you can put your photographs on there for like whatever amount you want. And like one day someone will come along and buy it, and that's your way of keeping your storm chasing and your passions going.
Yeah.
So.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I think it's awesome that it's just like, I feel as though that beforehand it was much tougher, like you were saying, just to make a living from photography alone. It seems like at least within the past 5 years or so, if you wanted to make a living doing storm chasing, you had to do it through like YouTube or something along those lines where you're kind of like an online content creator. But this is a little different now where it's not necessarily you're publishing like a proper like full on media. It's more of like a digital art piece that goes to people's collections. So I mean, it's just a new avenue, and for me personally, I'm all for any sort of means of getting storm chasers and storm photographers, storm videographers, you name it, a means of making this passion into a living. Because me personally, I know how addictive this storm hobby is, and anyone in this hobby knows just how what's the word I'm looking for? Like invigorating. It's you live to chase, and there's no high in the world than being on a storm and feeling smaller, feeling like a small like element in this much bigger picture. I mean, that's the best way to break down storm chasing, is just to see what true power really is. And I don't think there's anything quite like it in the world. And to take that passion and turn it into a career is, I'm all for any means of making that possible. So I'm happy that the NFT space is providing that opportunity for storm photographers out there. When, maybe a couple of years ago, that wasn't even a thing.
Yeah. And just, it's so expensive to chase. Like I go through maybe a gas tank and a half a day chasing, which like this year especially added up quite a bit.
Yeah.
So any sort of like way I can like fun chasing, because as you said, it is super addictive, and there's not like an hour that goes by I'm not thinking about it.
Yeah, same.
So like I'm jealous of all the people out in Oklahoma on the moderate risk today. I
Yeah.
almost like went and put some money on my credit card to get out there and maybe hop in with some chasers, but I just I knew that was not a good idea because like I just didn't have the funds.
Mm-hmm.
But like I'm just gonna save them for next May.
Yep.
But any sort of like I sell like one little NFT and that can change a whole chase season
Right.
for me. It's like it puts on like I sold like a picture, like a print. Like I've sold one and I was able to make like a week's worth of groceries. Whereas with one of my NFTs, I'm able to fund a week of chasing off
Yeah.
of just one, which like that is unheard of. And there's people out there that like buy like bananas duct taped to walls for hundreds of thousands of dollars. It's like you look at someone buying a picture online for a couple $1,000 and you kind of think, oh, that's not as crazy as I thought it was.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, especially yeah, like you said. I was thinking about that too, is that like the traditional art collecting world, if you think about it, like there are people that'll buy like a canvas that has like 3 paint splatters on it for like $250,000 or something like that, something like that. And, why not procure something of a digital form that has maybe a lot more value at a much more reasonable price, in my opinion, because especially with storm photography, there's quite a story that goes along with every single shot. I mean, talking like individual chases and stuff. I mean, you and I could probably sit here and go back and forth for hours and hours talking about this past chasecation for the two of us, since we had so much alignment between the storms that we were on. So we could each just keep going back and forth on these different perspectives. Whereas I don't know if you could necessarily make that same connection for a physical art piece. So I don't know. It's an awesome medium, and I'm glad that it's honestly going to put you in a better position to make more of that a possibility down the line. Speaking of 2022, are you going to be chasing in a similar style in 2022?
yes.
Yeah.
I there's it's a lot of it depends on what I do with my capstone project. So I graduate in May, and I graduate in early May, so I'll be able to chase a lot longer than last season.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to see if I can get my group members to build like a rocket that has like a humidity, temperature sensor, barometric pressure that uses, I think it's LoRa.
Yeah,
And
Laura, long range radio.
yeah,
Yep.
and send that to a database, and then you can read it on like a website or something. So that's what I'd like to do. I don't know if they'll all agree on it because it seems kind of difficult. But if they do that, I'm going to invite them all chasing and maybe try and get close to a tornado and shoot some rockets into it with them.
Reed
And they'll all be
Reed Timmer style.
scared. But yeah, Reed Timmer style. Although I don't know if I'd get that close to
Yeah.
that was an EF4.
Yeah, that was Lawrence Linwood EF4. Holding in my hand here, I know this is a podcast, people can't see it, but I'm holding the original June 1st breakout board prototype. And this is a LoRa transceiver right here with this little guy antenna. I was able to achieve a range of about 6 kilometers, I think, over open air. So about 3 miles. So these LoRa modules can go crazy. On a future podcast, I'm going to geek out on the technology side of things when it comes to this kind of stuff. But I'm more than happy to help out with that kind of stuff with your capstone project, because that's essentially what I did with my capstone project, just with UAVs. So I think this upcoming season, I'm going to be using a proper beef master drone, as I've been calling it, big beefy drone. I don't know what else to call it. Basically like a giant hexacopter to deploy sensors. I'm not sure if I'll be deploying sensors this year. It all depends how testing goes, but I'm more than happy to help out any project like that. So like Reed said, this field is, we need to collect data, and the more people doing it is the more the merrier for science, right?
Oh yeah, and I was talking with one of his partners, and he kind of came up with like the problem that needs to be solved. So that checks off a box on uh, the capstone
Right.
like project itself, to where like computer chips and like all those like sensors and stuff can be outrageously expensive. And for us to take like an Arduino board, which is under $100, and to make like something that you can shoot into like a bunch of them into like different tornadoes. Like if one fails or one misses, but you shoot three and one of them makes it,
Yeah.
like instead of just having one and then saying like, oh, this one's like kaput,
Yeah.
is just
Full on
would
twister
just be,
mode. Getting
oh
as
yeah.
many sensors as possible, because think about the size of that data set. You got multiple data points to work off of, and my big inspiration was the that led me to this project before Reed did his launch. That's a funny story. I think I talked about it in the pilot episode. If you want to listen to that, go listen to that after you finish this one. But basically, I was inspired by the computer simulations that Lee Orff was doing at the University of Wisconsin, doing supercomputer simulations of supercell thunderstorms and tornadoes. And I thought, hey, why don't we validate these things with real world data? And what he can do in the simulations is drop basically, a parcel and track it where it goes in the storm and track all the parameters. We're essentially doing that in real life. Reed did that on Linwood, and what you're talking about now and what I'm doing, it's like this is the kind of data that you need to validate these kind of simulations and get a full understanding of a real complex storm structure that is a supercell.
And yeah, and there's many different ways to like make something to get into a tornado. And I kind of took like Reed's idea with like a rocket, because it's just an inexpensive way. It's something that's like small enough that I can carry like a couple of them around
Right.
and shoot them up into like a tornado, and one that like can puncture the pressure gradient.
Yep.
The pressure gradient that's in a tornado. So essentially, in theory, it would be easy to take a rocket and shoot it from like pretty far out.
Mm-hmm.
But it is kind of dangerous to do that. But
Yeah.
with like chasing experience under my belt, and probably a bunch of other chasers that would definitely like be out there to help out.
Mm-hmm.
I know you said you would help out.
Of course.
And
I'm more than happy to help with the design phase of stuff. That's my specialty.
And if like I can help you out and get my rocket up there and your drone up close to one as well. And
a drone firing a missile. How about that?
that would be something else. But,
I'm pretty sure the FAA would be calling or busting down my door. I'm not sure. We'll figure that out as we go, I guess.
Yeah, I'll take my license plate off my car. But any sort of like way, because tornadoes are still like such a mystery to us. Like we've seen them for a long time, and I think it was like the 60s or 70s when like Ted Fujita started to kick off like, what are these?
Yep.
And like what like causes them. So this scientific field is something that's like, in the terms of science, brand new. So any sort of like research we can get, any sort of data points, because there's never enough data for anything. It's like that's why like companies will like harvest data from like our phones and everything, because there's never enough data. Even with millions of people, they still cannot collect enough.
Right.
And that's the same with the scientific field, where like you can go and shoot 100 rockets into 100 tornadoes, and that's still not enough.
Yeah.
That would just be enough to like maybe make like a point or two.
Yep.
So and plus, since we're like the younger generation, it's like we're in the more technological world, we're able to figure out different ways to like collect data, and we're the new generation of scientists. And
we're the pioneers.
The pioneers
of a new generation of storm chasing and shooting stuff into tornadoes. Who knows?
Oh yeah. And it's like we're definitely crazy enough to do it.
Heck yeah.
And a lot of people out there were like, there's radars now on them. There's like people shooting rockets on them. So I think tornado research is going to boom. Like
Oh yeah.
once our generation is able to achieve like an education that's high enough to where people will like listen to you.
Yeah. That's it's funny that you're talking about these things because I've come to all of the same conclusions, and it's nice to get like a validating thought process going here. Man, you're getting me excited. I'm looking forward to May 2022, and I'm looking forward to, I think right after this, I'm gonna start. I have like a whole list of parts for my tornado intercepting drone, if we want to call it that. But uh, hopefully, we'll be able to use that this upcoming season. Even in trial runs, I'd love to get that thing kind of just close and uh, you know break those barriers, like you said, and push the boundaries of science in terms of understanding supercell, thunderstorms, and tornadoes. There's so much to be learned, like you said.
Like what we're doing now, it's not the most advanced thing in the world, but it's a start. So like once we're able to like get some data points and like show like, oh, we're finding this and maybe get some funding. After that, like sensors could be getting better. We could get more people on
Yep,
it, and more people will follow suit.
exactly.
So it would just be a chain of events off of just something small, because everything big started from something small.
Exactly.
So
And like you said,
we're
if you uncover one thing, it's like, that could lead to 10 more problems that need to be solved. And it's like, okay, how are we going to measure this? And it's like the technology is going to keep evolving, and we're going to keep coming up with new hypotheses that need to be tested. And it takes mechanical engineers, it takes computer scientists to get this kind of stuff done. And it's nice. We probably should have mentioned the fact that you're a computer science major, and eventually transitioning into meteorology, which is a perfect field for someone that's in computer science, I think.
it'll be great to have 2 degrees and then spend my life living in a car.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's awesome, man.
that would be
I love it.
it'll be it'll be something different. And uh, yeah, having 2 degrees, I'll be like packed with knowledge. And like if I can use that to promote weather research, like I don't like I don't care if I am a millionaire. I don't care if like I have a maxed out credit card. It's like as long as I'm doing what I want to do and like advancing research, like that's fine with me. Money's stupid.
I agree. I agree, man. We're closing in on an hour here. Um, so, closing thoughts. Uh, First off, I'd love to have you potentially help me out with some of my programming side of things when it comes to it. But I'm just putting that on the table. And but from your perspective, do you have any closing thoughts or things you want to plug?
Uh, so storm chasing is it's a great hobby. It's a great thing to do. Like I've been wanting to be a storm chaser since I was 8 years old when I watched Storm Chasers, and it's like I've just had a love for it. And like I did my own research. I worked hard to like figure out what they do, like how to do it, and how to be safe. So anyone else who wants to get out there and chase, it's you kind of need to like build a knowledge. There's been a couple of years where I was like, oh, I'm ready to go, but then I just didn't feel like I was ready because I was like, well, I don't really know how to read models this year. So I went and I learned to read models. Like I didn't really know like radar as well. So I spent a year studying radar. And finally this year I was like, I think I have everything down pat. I need some field experience. So I went out and chased, and it was the time of my life. Like hundreds of miles of driving, open road, seeing storms like that you see in pictures. It's great. But it's best to be safe and like stay far. Like Reed and like all those chasers have been doing it for years, and they get close to tornadoes. Now you don't have to do that your first year.
Amen.
It's like I didn't do it my first year. Uh, so no one else should.
I agree
But
wholeheartedly.
so it's like anyone who wants to go out there, I am a okay with having like chasers go out and do it because it's fun, like legal, and it's like any sort of like photos, videos, and all that helps with research as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And plus, like if you know how to if you know like medical stuff, which I don't speak doctor, so I'm not very good with helping out with like destruction and all that. But sometimes we're the first ones on the scene. I didn't have this case this year, thankfully, but I know that like chasers on storms can be there to help other people out. So as long as like your focus isn't to like hope that something gets destroyed or hope that like things like ramp up super and hope that people get hurt. It's like that's not what we believe in. We believe in like advancing like science, like documenting the storms and helping out the National Weather Service.
Yeah.
So as long as you believe that, like chasing, so much fun, great experience, best thing you can do.
I couldn't have said it better myself.
And yeah, and like right now I'm not a meteorology major. I'm a computer science major. So I don't think you have to be a meteorology major because it's very hard. But there's other fields around meteorology that you can get into. So like I was talking with Reed and he said like 75% of meteorology now is computer science. So
exactly,
if you can get in and work with like coding and other stuff, like you'll do just as well as meteorologists do.
Yeah, and like stuff like emergency preparedness and stuff like that. I mean, those are the people that really save lives, are people that can effectively communicate storm threats and stuff like that, and methods of protecting yourself and your family. So you bring up all amazing points here, Thomas. And where can people find you at?
So I'm on Twitter mostly at TKNEP3, TKNEP3, and I'm on Instagram at NEPPhoto, KNEP photo, and my newfound LLC, TKChasing.com, where I post like all my pictures. That's kind of like my brand I'm trying to promote, and it's like hopefully I can turn TK Chasing into like a full-time career and turn that into like weather research, photography, just every single thing in meteorology you can think of. I'd like to be involved in.
Amen.
So
I love to hear it.
If I see you out on the road, I've got a whole bunch of TK Chasing stickers, and they're pretty cool.
I can confirm there is one on my car.
On your car? Ooh, I mean, I've got 2 cars now, and so if I see you in the field or you see me, don't feel scared to approach me. I get scared approaching other people too. So, and I'll give you a sticker. Like I've got plenty of them. So
awesome. Well, thank you, Thomas, for coming on, and hit him up at his social links, rate the show, and thank you so much for listening to the June 1st podcast, and I'll catch you next time. See ya.